Nothing comes easy. Success doesn't just drop on your lap. You have to go out and fight for it every day. A guy who said this started his life from rock bottom and make dead-end fighting to the best entertainment in the world. Today, we will talk about Dana White. Dana was born in Connecticut in 1969. He grew up tough as a child because his town was full of Irish mafias. And although he entered college, studying was not his type. He eventually gave up on getting his college diploma and decided to make money. Probably he did not have a study brain, but he was born to be a street smart. To make a seed money, he worked as a bellboy, boxing and aerobic coach. In particular, he made some money by coaching Boxercise, a diet program that combined boxing with aerobics, which was popular in the United States at the time. From what he earned, he opened a gym in Las Vegas. He grew up in a tough neighborhood when he was a kid, so he often spat the bad words and ran his gym wild and rough. Apparently, it made his gym so popular for many fighters to come and go. With so many fighters coming and going to the gym, he even set up a management company for fighters. Tito Ortiz and Chuck Riddell, who were the early contributors to the current UFC, also met here and continued their relationship. Until this time, UFC was a dead-end sport which only a few maniac fans watched. There were no rules so that it would not be a problem even if fighter hit the penis. And there was no weight limit, so it was literally a mess of a fight with over 220 pounds and 130 pounds. This made it difficult for UFC to survive. UFC was also in crisis as 36 states in the United States have enacted laws banning martial arts competitions without rules. Dana believed the opportunity has come after hearing that the UFC in crisis has been on sale. However, even though UFC came out at a bargain price, the $2 million was difficult to buy. Eventually, he persuaded his high school alumni and rich friends, Fertitta Brothers, to take over the UFC. Fertitta Brothers own the Station Casinos Group in Las Vegas, which owns more than 10 casino resorts, including Palms Casino, Red Rock Resort and more. And they were second generation of Frank Fertitta Jr., who was a very famous person in Vegas. But the initial acquisition of UFC was deficit. It was acquired for $2 million, but the deficit increased by nearly $40 million. Eventually there was no fight money to give to the players and they spent the money from their pocket. It was a moment that Fertitta Brothers almost resell UFC. However, Fertitta Brothers handed over the management of UFC to Dana. And Dana tried to perform the major surgery on UFC which was messed up previously. The top priority that he did was to change the perception of UFC. The UFC, which used to be a lawless zone, started to have strict regulations. By reforming the regulation, they strictly managed the players to prevent from drug use and etc. Dana's next move after this regulation set up was the popularization of martial arts. He planned a fighting survival TV show called The Ultimate Fighter. Like the martial arts version of the American Idol, the show literally hit the jackpot, giving Americans a huge interest in martial arts. After gaining popularity from The Ultimate Fighter, the strategy of UFC games on pay-per-view got a remarkable result. In 2006, the year after The Ultimate Fighter hit the jackpot, UFC recorded 7 million pay-per-view sales, generating over $200 million in revenue for a year. From this point on, UFC not only turned into a surplus, but gradually expanded its names to the world. However, the UFC was still lagging behind the Pride, which was #1 popular game in martial arts. Pride was gaining worldwide popularity at the time, with Fedor Emelianenko called the last emperor. Whoever will be and whoever won't be. Pride went bankrupt due to the story of supporting Yakuza and various corruption problems. Dana took over Pride when it was on the market for sale, and his UFC grew into the world's #1 martial arts organization. And his strategy was unique in expanding its popularity from the United States to the world. Dana's next strategy was to go to a country that does not know UFC well and find fighters there. Because, even if people do not know about UFC, they would be interested if a fighter were from their country. Dana, who may look like a gangster, had his own sophisticated strategy, but on the outside, he received a lot of criticism. First of all, it is known that the fight money paid to UFC fighters is very cheap compared to other sports. Even in the case of UFC star Conor McGregor, the fight money is known to be around $4 million, including incentives per match. This is only about a change amount compared to Floyd Mayweather, who receives nearby $100 million per match. Because of this, Conor McGregor had a war with Dana whenever he negotiated for a fight money, saying he would retire. And Dana got a lot of bad words every time he signed for new fighters because of the contract. In addition, there were articles on the contract that fighters signed with UFC are absolutely forbidden from the activities of other organizations. And the provision that if anyone wins a title in UFC they cannot leave until lose, it has caused conflict with many champions. Also, in 2015, after signing a sponsorship contract with Reebok, the fighters unified their uniforms and they lost their characteristics. There were many complaints from the fans saying that fighters are wearing like a school uniform, and UFC fighters were also dissatisfied because they could not earn the uniform sponsorships. So, how much is Dana's net worth, who is also called as a badass boss? Currently, his fortune is known to be about $600 million. That is a significant number when consider his early career as an aerobics instructor who did not even have money to run the gym. The biggest reason for this is the sale of UFC. UFC, which was acquired for $2 million in 2001, have been sold 15 years later for an amount close to 200 times of $4 billion in 2016. Dana, who owned a 9% stake at this time, is said to have received an amount of about $400 million in cash. He maintains the position of CEO even after selling UFC and is earning more than $20 million every year. After he got $400 million in his pocket, very first thing Dana did was buying the houses in front of his and right next door. He purchased a 82,000 square feet house in Vegas for $1.8 million, a 60,000 square feet house for $2.2 million, and a 50,000 square feet house for $2 million. In 2017, he demolished all these houses and began building his own fortress. His new home, which the land scale is close to 8.2 acres, was recently completed as a modern-style mansion. In addition to swimming pools, there are gym, basketball court, game room, and etc. Recently, it has been known through the media that he is having a social distancing in his home. When you see his car collection, you will say wow. Dana has a Ferrari vintage model Testarossa and an F430 model, also known as owned by President Trump. He is also famous as a muscle car collector among classic cars. His classic cars include the 1971 Plymouth Barracudas and the 1969 Chevrolet Camaro. In addition, he owns a Bentley Continental, Cadillac Escalade, and Land Rover Range Rover for families. We are not done yet. He also owns a private jet that cannot be missed when we talk about the rich. What he owns is specially manufactured aircraft of Bombardier, and the price of the luxury model of this brand is known to be about $28 million. On the one hand, he is criticized for being a badass boss and the envy of his successful from meeting rich friends. But it is clear that he has brought UFC to world-class entertainment. How far can he lead the UFC in the future? Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this clip, subscribe and get notified for more interesting videos.